Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank the members for their contribution. We expected that the opposition would make a case for maintaining the practice which had evolved since 2007. I would want the members to reflect on the practice that existed before 2007, indeed from the inception of the House, where committees were chaired by government members. Indeed, the leader of opposition business mentioned the important function of Parliament, and that is to exercise oversight on the executive, on the government. And that point was a theme of the presentation of the opposition, oversight. And that in some way, by allowing sessional committees to be chaired by government members, that in some way we would be diminishing the oversight of those committees and weakening the role of Parliament in keeping the executive in check. If we were to strip away the impassioned plea and look only at the reasoning of the arguments, it would quickly be agreed by any reasonable person that there is no standing in the arguments presented. Madam Chair, Madam Speaker, forgive me. The PAC, which was the first committee to be given the chairmanship of the opposition member by this, the standing orders, was done so because it was realized that there was an alignment of interests, and therefore it would be best served that a committee that looked at financial probity, that looked at keeping the government's accounts in check, that committee should be chaired by an opposition member, so that there is no possibility of a confluence of interests to cover up any issue or to in any way use parliamentary power to avoid scrutiny. And that is why it was agreed, and it is common parliamentary practice through almost all parliaments, that committee in particular is always chaired by an opposition member. What we are proposing to do, Madam Speaker, is not to interfere with that. That will be maintained. I recall bringing to the Parliament a resolution to reinstate or to activate the Public Accounts, the Public Administration Appropriations Committee, the PAAC. And when that resolution was finally accepted and activated, the then government gave the chairmanship of that committee to a government member. My recollection was that Easton Douglas of blessed memory was the first chairman of that committee. What we wanted to achieve then as the opposition was to have even greater oversight of government business, in particular how the government's budget was being expended in the year that it was approved. And we recognize that having a government member chairing the committee, we were not getting that impact. And I believe that that would have also influenced the position taken by former Prime Minister Bruce Golding. When we became the government in 2007, former Prime Minister Golding made the concession, starting, and I believe, inspired by the situation with the PAAC, to have all the sessional committees chaired by opposition members. And I agree, it was a noble gesture. It was one that was well intended to improve oversight. And I agree as well that the PAAC, the Public Administration or Appropriations Committee, should remain under the chairmanship of an opposition member. Because, again, the alignment of motivation. You would not want for a confluence of interest to prevail and then somehow subvert the oversight of Parliament by, for example, not scheduling meetings to examine government functions. Now, I want you to walk with me down this road, because the opposition in the last session of Parliament found it possible, with limited space, no special room dedicated for holding PAC meetings, but they found it necessary to allocate all their time to the PAAC and some time to the PAC. No time to the Economy and Production Committee, no time for the Infrastructure Committee, no time for the Human Resources Committee. Why? Why is it? Is it just so that we can... You had your chance to speak, member.
Please, members.
Now,
Prime Ministers.
by the very argument that somehow oversight is defeated because of limited space, by the opposition not calling the committee meetings, not seeing to them being held, they, Madam Speaker, have defeated oversight. They, Madam Speaker, are being hypocritical and trying to mislead the public. Because oversight, Madam Speaker, is not merely or only or singularly on the fiduciary matters, not merely on the budgetary matters, not merely on the financial matters, but there are policies and programs for which the government has committed to in its budget, for which the government would have presented to the public in their manifestos, programs, policies and programs that are of great importance. But there is no alignment of interest for the opposition to hold the government to account, to bring those programs to fruition, hence the government gets the benefit. I go back to my original point. Madam Speaker, I go back to my original point. When the House was structured with the standing orders, those who founded it understood this principle, and which is why it was structured the way it was. Which stood for oversight is not only, and that's 45 years, by the way, 45 years before it was changed. Oversight is not only the purview and the responsibility of opposition members. That is the falsehood in their argument. Oversight, Madam Speaker, is the responsibility of every parliamentarian. It is responsibility, particularly of the backbench. And the backbench is not defined by opposition members only. The backbench includes everyone who is a non-executive member of the government. They too have a role and a duty. What is it that we are trying to create, Madam Speaker? What is it that we are trying to create? We are trying to create a parliament that functions, a parliament that works, and a parliament where every single member of parliament can execute their duties and roles effectively. There is no attempt here, no attempt whatsoever, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker. And as we are on the issue of oversight, the government is not just the executive arm. The government has statutory agencies and bodies, and they submit to the Parliament on a regular basis reports which the only use that sometimes they have is to decorate some of our bookshelves, because they are hardly ever read. They are hardly ever reviewed. What I intend to do, Madam Speaker, and I have already given direction to the House Leader, is that every single report from a statutory body that comes here must be assigned to the relevant sessional committee for that sessional committee to review it. So they will have work to do. I don't intend to have 49 members when you take off the executive and have this massive backbench sitting down in Parliament banging on desk. All of them will have work to do. All committees will be functional, and their role will be to ensure that the government keeps the commitments and the promises that it has made, because the interest is aligned in that way, and that way we will see greater accountability. Madam Speaker, there is a sense sometimes in the way in which the opposition speaks, as if accountability and probity and high moral standard is their exclusive domain. As if the government of Jamaica is intent on somehow tricking the people or operating in a way less than the people's expectation. That will not happen under my leadership. It will not happen in this government. There is no deviation from the commitment to have the highest level of integrity, of dignity, and efficiency. Our action is integrous. It is in keeping with what is in our standing orders. Our action is dignified. We are giving greater meaning to the role and function of parliamentarians. And our action is efficient. More work will get done, and there will be a greater level of accountability and probity. I put it to you, Madam Speaker, that our actions are appropriate, in order, and in the public's interest.
Thank you very much, Prime Minister. House Leader.
Madam Speaker, I put the motion.
The question before the House.
Come on.
Go ahead. Yes. What are you going to divide? Well, I have already put on the record the wonderful performance at the game. You go against this record of performance.
You better get used to it when me
Yeah?
start
In
to talk.
5 years, the